Do we finally have the answers? Who made the 911 call regarding the Idaho-911 and what the heck happened? What was said on that call that sounded so incongruent with what we know to be true about the crime?
What did police have to say about the 911 call that was made around noon on November 13th, 2022 in Moscow, Idaho, hours after 4 students were tragically murdered?
So what I'll say to that is it was made from the roommate's call, or phone, excuse me, and we're not going to divulge who made that call. It's part of our investigation still, and when we get ready to release that, we will.
The person that was inside the home that called 911 that was not one of the roommates. Can you conclusively rule that person out as a suspect at this point?
I don't think I said that it wasn't one of the roommates. I said that it was used with the roommate's phone.
I believe somebody asked if that was the killer, and you said
no. That's correct.
While 4 precious lives were taken that day, 2 roommates in the house rented by 5 girls survived the attack. We all know that the world of online social media and platforms can be a very cruel place. The 2 surviving roommates, although they had been through a horrific, traumatizing tragedy, had received a lot of hate and tons of criticism from people they don't know that have nothing to do with anything. So the question of who made the 911 phone call has remained. It's been out there, it's been talked about, it's been speculated on. There were, of course, the 2 surviving roommates who were in the house, and then it was said that they summoned for some additional people, some friends. And then once the friends got there, a 911 call was made from one of the roommates' phones, as you heard law enforcement concede in this press conference. But again, it was never released as to who that was. Reportedly, when the 911 call was made by someone in the house or around the house, the caller said that somebody was unconscious and needed help, which makes no sense when you consider what happened. That doesn't seem like the thing the caller would say. We also asked the question, well, why would they have waited until the friends that they summoned to the house arrived to make that phone call when you see what's going on and the situation's obviously out of your control, needs emergency help? That made absolutely no sense, right? So what really happened?
They indicated that the roommate who fainted had already dialed 911, but was so upset and absolutely distraught that she passed out before she could give any information to the 911 dispatcher that made any kind of sense. The only information that the bystander was able to give the 911 dispatcher was when she saw the roommate running out of the house and passing out. So that's how the 911 call was made on the roommate's phone, but by someone else. And it's also why the call to 911 was about an unconscious person and not more of, what we'd expect. While the bystander was on the phone with 911, the other roommate was trying to explain that something wrong with Ethan, but she wasn't making much sense either, according to the people who observed this. So here's how the story goes. The roommates woke up, went upstairs to the kitchen, and noticed that the sliding glass door that's on the second floor was open. And it was during that time that they discovered Ethan. They didn't say where he was found on that floor, but that it was so horrific that both girls went into shock and ran out of the house. One of the roommates fainted, and the other was beyond hysterical and not making any sense. Their frantic actions while coming out of the house caught the attention of people walking past. The people responding on the victim's IG claimed to be 2 of the people in the house. They didn't go into detail about the kind of injuries that Ethan suffered, and they also didn't say if anyone went to check on the other roommates before the paramedics arrived, but it was implied that somebody had. The only details they gave about the scene itself was that it was incomprehensibly bloody. While those people were in the house checking on Ethan and possibly the other roommates, the paramedics arrived to an extremely chaotic scene. They were thinking that they were there to assess an unconscious person outside, but when they arrived, they were redirected to go inside to help someone who was very badly, possibly gravely injured. So they walked into the house just not knowing that it was a crime scene. And as a result, they're just being in the house and the way they behaved when they were in there contaminated nearly everything on the second floor. The person who made this report about the 911 call said it didn't seem to them at all like the roommates were the ones roaming throughout the house and carelessly contaminating everything on the second floor and beyond. They said the crime scene was contaminated by numerous people. All of them were trying to help, and that's all that those people were doing. But they were just simply unaware and or unable to understand what they were looking at, and that it was a crime scene and how freaking god-awful horrific it was, and that the rest of their lives would be changed forever. So that's the story, guys. I mean, it explains all the questions that people have been asking about this 911 call, who made it, why it seems like the investigators were saying someone else made the call, but on the roommate's phone, that in itself just doesn't make sense. Why the call went to 911 dispatch as being for an unconscious person rather than, something that was more fitting for the actual scene. And also, I don't know about how many of you had heard this. I guess, I don't know if to call it a rumor or a piece of leaked information. I'm not sure what it was, but from very early on, I had heard from several sources, certainly none of them that I could independently verify by any means. I just heard this several times, that the sliding glass door on the second floor was open and that one of the victims, was found near the sliding glass door. Was he trying to escape? Also, guys, just recently, more recently than I started hearing the rumor about this sliding glass door being open and Ethan being found, or somebody, being found near it, the coroner, who talks way too much, leaked that Ethan was found on the floor. So many people, I was imagining that it was right by the bedside. Maybe, he was one who fought back. We know that Xana's dad said she fought back, so it only makes sense Ethan did too. It makes sense that he was trying to protect himself and his girlfriend and the rest of the women in the house. But maybe it was him who was found near the sliding glass door and it was open. If this rendition of the story about the 911 call is true, or if even most of it is true, it makes perfect sense and it fits very well with other pieces of information that have been told or leaked. Please leave a comment letting me know what you think. Had you heard this rendition of that story of the 911 call before? And do you think this is what happened? Justice for Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan.